everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. So today I'm going to be filming my fall TBR video. This video is going to have me going over all of the books that I want to read this fall. Now, it's highly unlikely that I will be able to read all of these books just because there are so many, and I'm going to try to be as quick as I possibly can talking about each book. So hopefully you enjoy this video, and I will see you soon. First, we're going to start with some fall romance books. I have 3 that I want to share with you, so here they are. So the first book that I want to read is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, and this book follows a main character who is kind of in this like tumultuous relationship. They're not in a relationship though. She just has a bad relationship with her boss at her job. She gets a phone call that she has to go home because there's been a death in the family. So she goes home and she can't bring herself to stay. That is until she sees the ghost of her editor. So that sounds super exciting. I love Ashley Poston's romances. They are so good and I can't wait to read this one. The next book that is on my fall TBR is Fan Service by Rosie Danan. And this book basically follows a main character who is like obsessed with this TV show, but she does not like one of the main characters whatsoever. And our hero is that main character. And one day he wakes up and basically he doesn't know where he is and he's like got fangs and stuff. And so I believe that this is a werewolf romance, and it seems like it's grumpy sunshine werewolf romance. I love Rosie Danan. I feel like this is going to be a hit. Next book on my fall TBR is You Again by Kate Goldbeck, and I've heard that this is the perfect fall read. Basically it's about these 2 characters, and they basically I think that they were like enemies just about. Yeah, it seems like they were enemies. And so this book follows our main characters, and many years ago, they basically were sleeping with the same woman. And so they kind of vowed to hate each other until their paths crossed again in this book, and they become friends because they're so sad. So they become friends, and that slowly becomes a romance. So this is a good friends to lovers romance. I've heard it's perfect for fall. I mean, look at the cover. It's like screaming fall. So that's this book. Next up, I'm going to talk about all of the thrillers / horror books that I want to read this month. So let's get started with that. So the next book that I want to talk about is Upside Down Bunny. And this is by Mona Awad. And I've heard that this is a really good, like almost like dark academia type, follows a MFA student who gets drawn into like this clique of like sweet but sinister classmates, and reality starts to kind of blur with like their occult like rituals, I think. It's dark, it's weird, it's satirical, it has a campus setting. There's a twist, there's an edge to it, so it just sounds right up my alley. The next book that I want to talk about is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And this book basically, I think, follows a like Shakespearean, like dramatic, like acting group. And they are torn apart by rivalry, obsession, and this like tragic event that happens in this story. And so this is like a dark academia book. It's got this tragic event, and there's a lot of Shakespeare at its core. So that's what this book is about. The next book that I want to talk about is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, and this will be my first Isabel Cañas book, and I've heard nothing but amazing things. So this book follows a woman who is going to her new husband's estate, and it turns out to be like creepy and like haunted. And it takes place in Mexico, and it just seems like it's going to be really good. So I can't wait to jump into this one. The next book is a horror book, and it's really short. It's called What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I've actually never read any of T. Kingfisher's horror stuff, but I love her fantasy books, so I'm super excited to give this one a go. Plus it's like really short. This one is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, so that's super exciting. It follows a soldier who's retired, and he goes to this estate, and there's like creepy bunnies and like creepy fungi and all sorts of weird stuff going on that he kind of has to uncover as he is in this old estate. So the next book that I want to talk about is The Reformatory by Tana Nariv Dew, and this book is set in 1950s, like the deep south, in Florida. And basically it's this boy who has to go to this reformatory school, but there's also like ghosts there of the people who have passed through before him. And so it's like super unsettling, and it just seems like it's going to be really, really good. So the next book that I want to read is another kind of like haunted house story, which I feel like a lot of the books that I've talked about have been like spooky houses. But this one is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Klewer, and this book follows a couple that moves into a house, and they are visited by these people, and they're basically like, let us in, we used to live here, we just want to look around. And then a bunch of creepy things start happening. It sounds so good. I've heard really good things about this book, so I can't wait to read it. The next book I want to talk about is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker, and this is very interesting to me because it says that it's a mix between a thriller and an epic love story, which those are two of my favorite things, so combined it's gotta be good. Basically this follows these two characters who are childhood friends because they went through this like traumatic event together, and it follows them through like their whole life and love and all of these like haunted things that are happening to them throughout the story. It sounds so good, and it's another one that I've heard amazing things about. The final book in this section that I want to read is Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, and I am an Alice Feeney lover. I love all of her books, and this is one that I haven't read yet, so I'm super excited to get into it. This one follows a man whose wife, I think, is missing, or maybe she's dead, but she is missing, and so he goes to this like remote Scottish island type of place to focus on his writing. And when he gets there, he notices like all of these creepy things are going on, like there's no birds, and like the people are weird, and there's this manuscript that he didn't write, and also there's a girl who looks just like his missing wife. It's so interesting, so I can't wait to read this one. The next and final section is my fantasy section, and I have quite a few books in the fantasy section, so strap in, let's get started. So the next book that I want to talk about is Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and I've had this on my shelf for so long. I feel like it's the perfect fall book. This is YA. It follows a main character who can like see death like personified, I think, which is very interesting. And so she has to like solve this murder in this haunted mansion before she becomes the next murder victim. It sounds really, really good. So the next book that I want to talk about is Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and I feel like I've heard so much about this book recently, and I've really been in a dystopian story type of mood recently, so this one is right up my alley. This one basically follows this really rigid, almost like hierarchical, there's like a hierarchy. How do you say that word? I don't know. There's a hierarchy in this story. Basically, I think that they're like based on different colors. So there's like the red group, etc. And our main character basically is trying to get into like a different group, and he wants to basically like start a revolution, essentially. It sounds really, really good. I can't wait to read it. Next book that I want to talk about is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana, and I read the first book in this series, which is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and I absolutely adored it, so I feel like I'm going to love this one just as much. This story follows our main character who is basically taking over like this magical inn, and there's all these spells that protect it and surround it, and she finds out that it's really, really difficult to keep up with all of these spells, and also like the people who like inhabit this inn. It's very interesting, and that's basically what this book is about. The next book that I want to read this fall is Wayward by Amelia Hart, and this is like a witchy story. It basically follows these three women through different time periods, and how they are kind of surviving and getting through their lives, because each of these women has been through something like very extreme and difficult in their life. So they use like their witchcraft and everything like that to kind of like make their way through. It sounds really, really good. I've heard it's amazing for fall. The next book that I want to read is another dark academia book, and this one is Immortal Dark by Tejas Jerma. And this book basically follows this school where humans and vampires like live and inhabit this world together. Our main character is an heiress and she's been orphaned, but she's looking for her sister. So she infiltrates this school and she discovers like all of these crazy things that are happening. There's a lot of power struggle in this book, and there's an enemies to lovers romance, which is right up my alley. The next book is another book where our main character has to infiltrate somewhere, and that is Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. So this book follows our main character, and she is trying to infiltrate her father's kingdom in order to win back her dragons. This one also, I think, has like a really good romance in it. And the second book recently came out in this series, and so I want to read this one so that I can get to that one as well. I love anything with dragons, and I've heard that this one is really, really good. The next book that I want to talk about is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranik. And this book follows a main character in this like Polish inspired fantasy world, and she has like this really dark and dangerous magic, and she really wants to get rid of it. So she makes a deal with, I think, like a forest nymph or something like that. She makes a bargain with them that she can get her wish, and so she has to live in this forest for a year with this forest person, maybe a demon, forest demon, forest nymph, forest demon. I don't know. I'll read it and I'll find out and I'll let you know. The next book I want to talk about is Arcana Academy by Elise Kova. And I'm just going to read you what it says on the inner flap because I feel like it does a really good job of describing what this book is about. It says, a woman who wields magical tarot cards lands herself in a false engagement with the headmaster of a mysterious academy in this first installment of an enthralling fantasy romance series. Just sounds so good. It's an academy setting. There's a fake romance, like a fake engagement type of scenario. There's tarot card magic. It just sounds right up my alley, and I cannot wait to read it. And those are all the books that I want to read this fall, with a couple of stragglers that I will inevitably add in. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you in my next one. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.